my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious It has begun!
The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
It's time for the week's latest news in tech, gaming, movies, TV, and all things geeky. Welcome to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC. I know that we have a fancy intro involved, but unfortunately, again, you're going to have to pardon our dust, and that will be on YouTube, but I apologize. So welcome, everybody. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. What is up to everybody on this fine day of May, or is it June? Is it? I can't tell anymore.
It's still May for at least 2 more days.
Yes, so I've been having a good day. It's just been catching up on a lot of work, specifically like for the YouTube episodes of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. Those will be getting up really soon. I am being joined by Stephen Romney, as you just heard. Romney, how are we doing this fine day?
Pretty good. Kind of hot. Definitely made for an interesting walk all the way over here in the nice hot sun with a backpack and everything. But then again, that's why I wear a long sleeve shirt. A lot of people think, oh, long sleeve shirt, you're going to bake. But there's a reason they wear long sleeve stuff in the Middle East.
Yep,
it
exactly.
Works.
So, and then also, we are being once again joined. He has come out of the shadows just for us by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you doing this fine day, Alex?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
All right. Yes, we are bringing you back on because we got some stories to talk about. And we'll be being joined by Aldo pretty soon because we have to have our daily dose of raccoons and Molyneux effect.
Like raccoons, Molyneux effect, badly singing American themes to anime.
We are totally making a video out of that. So we have actually quite a bit of news to discuss. So let's go ahead and start getting into it with the Tech Hour. First story we have is Nintendo has worked out a deal with YouTube. Now, here's when I bring up Nintendo and YouTube, people don't necessarily get the history there. Nintendo is one of the most notorious with partner programs and Let's Players of putting up copyright claims and then waiting the 30 days, even though it's been contested at that point, waiting the 30 days, letting that drop, and then renewing it so that nobody gets the money for doing their stuff. Like, for example, Fraser Agar for YouTube, who does Video Games Awesome, he gets cut off because he does a lot of Nintendo and he can't get paid for that. So they've decided to do an affiliate program with YouTube, which strangely enough is kind of what I was suggesting last week with Twitch, is that Nintendo is allowing to offer that not only do the content producer gets paid, but also Nintendo gets paid. So everybody's happy at that point.
Yeah.
That would be a great thing, and I think a lot of companies should do something like that. However, with Nintendo, there's always kind of a bit of a catch, especially in this case where I guess in order to get this affiliate program approved, you need to get permission from Nintendo. So at that point, you need to work out whatever they require to get your money, basically. And so, we're all YouTube content producers here. How does this affect us? Because really, I mean, from my opinion perspective, this doesn't really change anything. It's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, especially given when I tried getting permission from Nintendo for this video, kind of trying to do it the right way, they pretty much just sent the automatic email, oh, we usually we don't grant permission.
Yeah, it's Japan's response. We're not going to deal with this. We're not going to deal with every single case because if we say yes to one, then we have to say yes to everybody, and we want to get paid for our stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the other thing is that Nintendo of America has been telling Japan for a long time is they're getting publicity from us, basically. Like Fraser Agar, I mentioned, he's bringing on the latest Nintendo games for 3DS or for Wii U, and he's doing these big showcases on them, and that's free advertising. It's basically the best thing that Nintendo could ever want because it's literally video of people playing your game and liking it, kind of thing.
And yeah, that's just kind of the ridiculous thing that a lot of Japanese companies just don't understand is that it's like, oh, well, we want to kind of control. I mean, the strongest example was back with Sega getting a lot of Shining Force videos taken down so that the trailer for their newest game would rise to the top of the search results. And it's just it definitely kind of goes down in the dichotomy of how I mean, I think Keiji Inafune put it best where Japanese companies just don't get how things work outside of Japan.
It's funny that you brought that up because like other YouTube content producers like Aijin Goomba have mentioned this because Japan doesn't get it. And they're not willing to look into this. And in cases of Nintendo, where really the Japanese office runs everything, and they're the ones making the decisions, when Nintendo of America brings something that they don't see as relevant, then they're not going to listen to them.
Well,
you know, even if Reggie was saying it to them.
Yeah, it's kind of even the same case to bring up another theorist, MatPat. He even talked about how the anti-YouTube stuff has been hurting sales for the Wii U because of the whole diffusion of innovation idea. By not letting people actually do that publicity, not letting people actually show people who aren't from Nintendo actually trying the games and giving opinions on it, they're not allowing people to actually know, is this worth the money?
Let's actually go back into Twitch. What was one of the things that really launched Twitch? Major League Gaming. They got that on there and did all the StarCraft tournaments and all the League of Legends tournaments there. So at this point, Nintendo could look at that, if they did, and say, oh, this would be the greatest thing for us because we get a bunch of Let's Plays of our game. And at that... this is one of those points where, like, the big three don't necessarily get it, but smaller development companies do, because they at least, like, for example, I remember when Broken Age came out from Double Fine, they at least said, okay, well, Kickstarter backers and people who are going to do Let's Plays on this, we have no problem with you doing Let's Plays, but for, like, the first 2 months, can you just do only the first 40 minutes of each of the campaigns? And then at that point, we don't care, like, 2 months down the road, you can do it, we don't care, everybody's played the game.
Well, yeah, and other studios are also really cool about it, too, like with Bethesda. Bethesda's really cool about this sort of thing because they understand the basic concept, and it even goes into the same case.
They've written off actual content producers.
Well, yeah, and it's even just the case that it goes into the idea with the game is that everybody who plays an Elder Scrolls game is going to have a different experience.
Yeah.
It plays off of that mechanic that they built into the game, and that's why they're really cool about having people do videos about...
I'm glad you brought up Bethesda, because like when Content ID happened, and everybody was freaking out about that, one of the biggest companies that was saying, nope, it's okay, they can get it, was Bethesda. Amongst other companies. Blizzard was another big one, too, like for Total Biscuit, where he was doing Hearthstone coverage and not getting paid for it. When Content ID was... And Blizzard came in and said, it's fine, he's approved to do it. We have no problem with him doing it, and especially like with Angry Joe, where he knows a lot of those developers, he's interviewed them, then they have no problem saying, look, he is approved. He can do this.
And it's the same case with Notch when Minecraft came out. He's like saying, hey, we're letting people make videos about Minecraft.
Exactly. I mean, at that point, it's one of those things where I think the third-party developers get it a little bit better than companies like Capcom, companies like Konami.
And companies like Sony and Microsoft, even with, especially Sony with doing the whole share thingy in the PS4, trying to control that aspect of it.
Yeah, that kind of blew up in their face.
Yeah, that's why I think
the whole Playroom. Yeah,
I think they realize that too, which is why they made like an editing app that is like uses the same sort of basic setup as Sony Vegas that you can use on a PS4 to actually edit the videos now.
Pretty much, and so that was a good move on that. That, and I also think on Twitch you couldn't even do Playroom stuff anymore. I think they still have that unilateral ban on PS4 Playroom. But yes, it's a mess overall. Alex, you've actually been kind of quiet on this. I know you're an anime reviewer, but you and I do Let's Plays, and you and I have we've considered and we've done Nintendo games. So at this point, I mean, how do you think overall this affects kind of the YouTube sphere? You know, are we going to see more games from Nintendo if this affiliate program goes through and there's no major problems to get permission?
If it takes off and Nintendo's not so anal with it, then absolutely.
And that's the problem, is that Nintendo's kind of anal retentive.
You know, this could go really either way. It's a little early to say.
Yeah.
So, because on the one hand, yes, this can go swimmingly well. You know, for Nintendo doesn't have to worry. We don't have to worry. Everybody gets a share of their money. Everybody's happy. And, the one thing, of course, about getting permission is worrisome is, it's just how difficult is it going to be, or is Nintendo going to overly favor big-name channels? Like, are they going to grant Angry Joe a license to review
to do that, but they wouldn't necessarily grant us a license.
Yeah, and it's even the same case of what if it's a negative review of one of their games that points out the actual flaws. And not even
I'm glad you brought that up, because this could easily go Gary's Incident on anybody.
Well, yeah, because I remember when I actually did research looking into what a lot of the places like IGN and even what freelance game reviewers go about, if you put a negative review about a certain game and you get the permission, you could end up getting blacklisted, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look at Total Biscuit with the whole Gary's incident issue.
Yeah.
He criticized that, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's getting yanked, he's getting striked because he said a bad thing about a game, but he was being honest about it. Now, thankfully, the YouTube community came out in support of Total Biscuit and kind of proved that this was not the right thing for that company to do.
Especially given the statements the company made saying, oh, you can make YouTube videos.
But that company
of our game.
listened. Nintendo might not.
That's the mostly because Nintendo is big enough to actually not listen. They have the money to actually plug in their ears.
Exactly. And the other thing also, I'm kind of glad you brought that up because with Nintendo, the other option is with this permission stuff, how is that going to work? Because what are you going to do if you just want Mario Kart 8 coverage and you're only willing to pay for that? What's going to happen to the people who cover A Link Between Worlds? All right, well, that's still a game that you're trying to get money off of. So at that point, are you just going to say, oh, well, Mario Kart 8 is the in thing right now, and only people who are covering Mario Kart 8 get Nintendo money?
And what if people are doing like retro playthroughs of like older games? Like, for example, off the top of my head, F-Zero X, or maybe even A Link to the Past, to kind of use Zelda as an example. What if there are people doing the retro stuff? I mean, Earthbound.
Yeah, or here's the best example. I mean, for example, on our Let's Play channel, we started doing the Pokemon gens, okay? Well, what if they just say, well, only people who do X and Y get the coverage, but people who are covering our older games and we're not getting anything on, well, screw you.
Yeah, especially now that you've got Omega Sapphire or Alpha Ruby or however the heck you pronounce those.
Yes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
Yeah, like with those games coming out.
With a possible Delta Emerald coming.
Well, yeah, it's just kind of with those games coming out, it would be the same case. Like, oh yeah, we don't need to worry about X and Y anymore, so all those videos can go.
Exactly. So at that point, that could bounce back. I think overall, the best thing Nintendo could do, Nintendo just says, okay, we'll work this out with you as long as you are tasteful, as long as you're not using our content for weird purposes, then we have no problem with you covering this stuff. However, they could easily just go, we want our Wii U games advertised. And that's not the only thing they have. You know, let us advertise the 3DS. Let us advertise the Wii U Virtual Console. You know, I've been talking about Metroid for the last couple of weeks, and a lot of Metroid games have been coming out on the Wii U's Virtual Console. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be great to cover that, you know?
Yeah, indeed.
So at that point, we actually are going to need to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to be talking about Valve and the Steam machines. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC. And let's go ahead and get into the next story. Now, this is going to need a little bit of a build-up. Valve unveiled at CES their Steam controllers and I believe some of the Steam machines that have been supported. And at this point have actually redacted, they were supposed to be at E3, and they've now said they will not because they've been getting a lot of bad feedback towards the controller and towards the machine itself. And actually, we are just barely being joined by Aldo. How are we doing this fine day, Aldo?
Good. I got a headache, but I'm good.
Oh, hopefully there's not enough of a headache. We got to get some raccoons in here. So, yes, we're talking about the Valve and the Steve machines.
The Steam machines, not the Steve machines.
Yes, the Steve machines. That's exactly what it is. It's the Lawnmower Man right now. So at that point, they were supposed to be at E3. They have now said, no, they will not be showing up at E3. There's too much negative feedback towards them. They need to go work on them a little bit. I'm going to let people kind of think about that because I also want to get Aldo's opinion on the previous story on the Nintendo affiliate program for YouTube where you can actually work out an ability to be able to get paid for your content as well as for Nintendo to get paid on your videos. But at the same time, you have to get kind of a special permission from Nintendo in order to get this. Where I think it's actually a good idea, this is something a lot of companies should do. Nintendo has a very finicky reputation, as you well know, Aldo. How do we think this is actually going to work out overall for YouTubers, for Let's Players, as well as for Nintendo?
I actually think it's just a really good step forward. It kind of shows Nintendo embracing the community and actually kind of taking a step forwards, where it seems like Nintendo took a step back and everybody took a step forward. It seems like Nintendo's taking 2 steps forward this time around, figuring out how they can make a profit, how they can help YouTubers make a profit, and just essentially how to, help everybody, make everybody happy. It does depend a lot on the paperwork, on actually processing the whole thing. If they can smooth that out, if that's a painless situation where you just have to go online, maybe wait 24 hours before, or 48 hours while it processes, and some Japanese businessman looks at your YouTube channel and goes like, "Oh yes, that's Nintendo."
Well, at that point, I mean, the biggest thing is, the biggest catch. When Alex brought this story to my attention at first, I went, okay, well, what's the big catch? Because Nintendo's got to have a catch here, and that was the special permission. We don't know what that's going to entail. Is it only going to be for new games? Are you going to be able to get funded for older games? Like if you decide to go and do a Pokemon Green, like old school LP of it, would you get some kind of funding for it? And we don't know yet. If they do it all, and I think in a lot of cases, if this proves out that they are willing to help everybody out, it is 3 steps forward, Aldo. I think at that point they will redeem themselves, and at that point they'll get all the advertising they want, because now where a lot of people are hesitant to do their games, they'd be more than happy to.
I actually think it'd be kind of dumb for them not to, because not only does it allow them to, get more people into the older library and maybe going out, digging out, and bringing up that nostalgia thing, it also helps them decide what they should bring to the eShop. If they see 26 Let's Players doing a Kid Icarus playthrough, what are they going to do? Let's put Kid Icarus out on the eShop. If they see Kirby, if they spot 20,000, well, not 20,000, but like 200 or 200 or, people doing a Let's Play of Kirby 64, they're going to bring that out on the eShop, which that one already is.
Yeah, and even to take it a step further, it would even generate, people are playing games from such and such franchise. Let's try to pull some resources.
Let's do like a Kirby month.
Well, yeah, because that's what they did with Kid Icarus Uprising. They saw how popular Pit was in Smash Brothers Brawl and saw
another thing kind of in that vein, Nintendo could be like, you guys are our YouTube, sponsors, partners, whatever, the affiliates. Here's a free download of, of Balloon Fighters or whatever.
Balloon Fight, or NES Remix.
Yeah, here's a free download of that. Just do a Let's Play. That's all we ask.
Exactly. That would be great motivation, and at that point they could say, all right, well, we have a new game coming out. Could you do a Let's Play of it? And at that point, I'd be like, me and Alex running a Let's Play channel, I don't think we'd have any objections with it, would we? I mean, it would be totally...
Yeah, it worked for Dead Space 3.
It did,
And so it's I think it's a good idea. I mean, apart from video games we've seen, I know some of us here run like anime stuff, and even Romney that does his movie stuff, it's really hard for us to do any clips or any images or any music, because it's just, there's no way. We're not a big company. We can't get those rights that easily.
Yeah, you have to watch the seconds.
Especially in the wake of the Viacom lawsuit as well. So
Exactly.
So I think what Nintendo does, if they do it well, they implement it well, could essentially set a precedent for what could be a new sort of company format for other companies.
That'd be a good thing.
As easy as going on Legendary Studios, going on the website, filling out an affiliate form. 3 days later, what do you have? You have your review of Pacific Rim.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And that's what American Zoetrope actually does, the company run by Francis Ford Coppola. You can actually request, like, okay, I need a clip from this film, here's what it's for, stuff like that. I haven't actually tried it, but there actually is a system in place with some studios that'll actually allow for that.
Exactly. So, and the other thing also is, this would be great advertisement for Nintendo if they got it all approved, because, where I think of, the examples I was giving was like Fraser Agar with Video Games Awesome, with Angry Joe. If you had actual footage of them playing this game and liking it, that would be the best thing that could happen. That would be selling the game for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, let's actually get into the Valve delaying the Steam machines. How many of us have actually been following the Steam machines and all the Alienware version and things like that? How much?
I'm raising my hand a little bit up here.
You've heard about it.
Yeah.
Romney, how about you?
I actually haven't heard too much about the Steam machines prior to last week or something, because I heard him mention in passing, because I'm the movie guy. So
Exactly. Alex, have you heard about them? Or?
All I heard was Steam was going to make a console.
Yes. Well, it's not necessarily Valve has been kind of flip-flop about it. They would like to do it, but they don't want to pay the money to do it. So when Alienware offers to do it for them, they're more than willing to do it. They did do the controller, I think, but what they're basically saying is it was supposed to be it was unveiled at CES. It was supposed to be at E3, but they've been getting a lot of negative feedback on the controller, and so they're basically saying we want to take it back to the drawing board. We want to figure out the bugs before we bring it out again. Now, what's unclear, however, is how this is going to affect it, because there are like 10 plus Steam devices that are being advertised. So does that hurt those companies? It's unclear at this point. But overall, I think, the Steam machines will get their day in the sun, because if they can get the streaming going, Steam is like one of the most accepted platforms now for PC gamers. It would only help to get those out there.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll do a lot better than the Ouya did, because the Ouya was supposed to kind of try to be like that, but
it was supposed to be that, but it was also supposed to be just like for mobile games and casual games, and that's, I think, where its biggest downfall was. If they had worked something out maybe with Valve, or worked something out with some of the bigger hubs for mobile games, they probably would have gotten a little bit more there. But where people have to make a mobile game and then try and make it work for the Ouya, they looked at the numbers and went, eh.
Yeah, and so far the only thing I've heard about the Ouya is that they managed to get like some ports of some larger games like Final Fantasy III and stuff, but didn't quite work out, and now Final Fantasy III is on Steam.
Exactly. So at that point, it actually would be in Ouya's best interest to work something out and I hate to say it this way, but I mean, the most that the Ouya that I've heard has been used has been people hacking it to make it use NES and SNES emulators and things like that. It would actually be in their interest to work out something with Steam. And then
like work with Valve and probably develop a much better version with a much better controller that isn't...
with Steam streaming kind of thing. So overall, I don't think this is going to affect Valve. I mean, really, I actually like the story that came along with this, which was the Steam machines are being pulled back. Also, no Half-Life 3 news. So at that point, I really do think that people don't want to hear about the Steam machines per se. They want to hear about what games Valve is making.
Well, yeah, that is unless it's just like Steam machine pulled, Half-Life 3 confirmed.
That would be awesome. Oh my God. But that's like the biggest thing that I actually have seen a lot of the gaming journalists getting on Valve's back, because they've rumored since Portal 2 that Half-Life 3 is being made, and Portal 2 kind of alludes to it, and all of a sudden people are like, when is it coming? When is it coming? When is it coming? When Gabe Newell actually shows up on E3, I can guarantee you a bunch of gaming journalists are basically going to poop their pants because they know what's coming, and then it'll be Left 4 Dead 3. Because that's Gabe Newell for you. In the meantime, though,
I'm just waiting for Left 4 Dead 4 Dead. 4 Dead left.
Let's actually go ahead and go into the next story before we go into our break. Again, it's before E3, guys, and so there isn't a whole lot because all the companies collectively have shut up. They are waiting to do their big unveilings. EA is getting ready to do Star Wars and Disney Infinity and all that stuff. You have Microsoft getting ready to unveil their reason to buy the Xbox One. So there really isn't a whole lot, but I did like that Traveler's Tales came out and announced the next LEGO game for them. So people also know that the LEGO The Hobbit came out with only the first two movies. The third movie will be as DLC. I actually think that's a good idea because that keeps people waiting instead of spoiling.
Well, yeah, and plus it also, if they release the DLC the same day the film comes out, or maybe even have it be, buy a ticket to the movie, get a code to get a discount on the DLC. Maybe
exactly.
If they work with New Line, that could probably be a way they can
like a pre-order
it.
code kind of thing. But they announced their next game, and it's going to be that they're going back into the DC universe with Lego Batman 3 outside or Beyond Gotham. And actually, the title you guys will appreciate is what I put for it, which was Lego Batman 3 to involve Green Lantern storyline. What they're doing is they're taking it outside of Gotham. You can still go to Gotham, but they're going to space. And the main plot line of this game is going to be going into the Green Lantern mythos. I brought up, I think 2 weeks ago that I was reading In Blackest Night. So it's going into that kind of stuff. So you're going to be collecting various Green Lantern or lantern rings, not just from green, but red and yellow and orange and all that. And you're going to be able to use these various powers with certain characters as well as unlockable additional characters in the DC universe, but you will also get access to not only the Batcave, but you'll also get access to the Watchtower, all the various Justice League headquarters, and they'll have even more characters to go with. At this point, I will say my biggest complaint here, just call it Lego Justice League. You want to call it that. Why call it Lego Batman 3?
Or just call it Lego DC superheroes like they did with the Marvel one. It's just like Lego Marvel superheroes.
Well, and that's kind of what they did with Lego Batman 2. DC superheroes. And they really should have just done Lego DC kind of thing. And instead they decided, or Lego Justice League, so that people would know what it is. And so that's like the weirdest thing that they could have possibly done.
Well, I guess it kind of goes with the same logic of having Batman appear in what's supposed to be the sequel to Man of Steel. He's the more popular character, so let's just slap Batman on it.
Even though they're both going to be the same character. Anyway.
Didn't work for NetherRealm Studios, though, unfortunately.
But at this point, I mean... Again, it's Green Lantern mythos. You know, we're going into the Green Lantern mythos and bringing out the Black Lanterns and bringing out the Blue Lanterns and the Red Lanterns. And so at that point, you know, I really think it just should have been like Lego Green Lantern, or it should have been Lego Justice League. Alex, what do you think about this? I mean, you've played Lego games here and there, and everywhere. Is this enough to bring you in to try out another Batman game?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then, Aldo, you and I have gone into Lego before. And we know we have some franchises that we want to see. By the way,
yes.
Simpsons toy line did get announced.
Yes.
So that is coming. And I'm waiting for Lego Simpsons from Traveler's Tales.
And I'm still waiting for Lego Ghostbusters.
Oh, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? So what do we think about Lego Batman 3?
You know, same opinion. I'm kind of frustrated at the name. I'm one of those people that like Batman. I mean, I go and pick up my Batman comic every month from my, comic book store. So like, it's not that I hate Batman. I'm just kind of tired of the Bat hype per se. So it kind of does bother me that it's not Lego Justice League, or they can't. I mean, another easy way out could have been them calling it Lego Green Lantern, and then the announcement trailer just being from the makers of Lego Batman and Lego
exactly,
Batman 2.
And it could have just been Lego Justice League.
Yeah, and even kind of do what they did with Lego Indiana Jones and Star Wars, where they have kind of the crossover with like Lego Indiana Jones. You can unlock Han Solo. You could have it where Lego Green Lantern. You can unlock Batman.
I'm waiting for the one day when they just say Lego Universe and everything's unlockable. You know?
Yeah, like a toy box.
It's almost like they could have done this before, Aldo.
Right. Anyways, no, but my other thing is, if they are doing a Blackest Night storyline, I'm actually really excited because
it's not necessarily in Blackest Night, but it's going to involve the expanded Green Lantern universe.
Yeah, but I mean, if they do touch on it, I'm really excited for it because Blackest Night is just such an adult storyline. It was just surprisingly dark. I mean,
I'd like to see Traveler's Tales humor on it.
Exactly, because they're going to make it kid friendly. I mean, they're not going to have Lego people ripping hearts.
Yeah, it's probably going to be more like kind of treat it like satire, like they did with Lego Star Wars, where they were satirizing Episode 3, and instead of having it be like the series, they just basically lampooned it.
Well,
exactly.
At that point, they will have like hearts getting ripped out, but it'll be Lego hearts. And then on top of that, they'll do like the comedy thing of, oh, wait, that's not the heart. Okay, throw that away. Oh, no.
Yeah, or just like have them like pop off like a head or something.
But another thing that would be cool to do is, one of the things the Lego games are known for is the multiple characters that you can get and the multiple costumed characters, especially in the Batman games. And it just so happens that a lot of these DC superheroes, you brought up the Black Lanterns. They've become Black Lanterns.
Yes.
So at that point, it'd be cool to get a Black Lantern Batman kind of thing.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, I'm kind of excited for it. Though I am a little disappointed because when you said Beyond Gotham, I was like, Batman Beyond Lego?
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Exactly. I would love
now
that.
we have Lego Terry McGinnis, and he's even more emo than ever. And then we
get
can have cynical Lego Bruce Wayne with his dog.
And Lego Spike. Was that Spike or Rex? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
It's a dog.
Well,
the dog was Ace.
Because
it was a reference to Ace the Bat Hound.
Well, yeah, and then they would even have like Lego Zeta as well. That would...
Oh my God!
Yes.
You could have the.
Well, yeah, because Zeta couldn't look like anybody, so that would be like, oh, Lego Zeta. You can turn into the other characters.
Pretty much, you can
Justice
rearrange your
League
parts.
3000. Oh my goodness.
So, but in the meantime, we do need to take a quick break. When we get back, we're also going to be talking about Shinji Mikami because he's making his debut back into survival horror. He's been gone for a while. I know Capcom kicked him off the Resident Evil franchise, but what he has coming actually might be his best work yet. So we'll actually be talking about it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. So let's go ahead and get into the last story of the not the entertainment hour, the tech hour this week, where we're going to be talking about Shinji Mikami. Now, for people who don't know who he is, if you played a Resident Evil game, you can credit Shinji Mikami for it, because he's the guy who brought survival horror into the mainstream and made it what it is. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people might credit I don't remember the name of the guy who created Silent Hill, but mostly Mikami gets credit because of Resident Evil or Biohazard in Japan.
Yeah, he basically was more responsible for making it more of a mainstream genre, whereas prior to that point, it was very niche, with the only title being like Alone in the Dark being the major franchise.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, I think he's been on the franchise since, I want to say 4. 4 was his last one. I might be wrong on that one. Aldo might be able to correct me on that. But 5 and 6 were not him. He had since then been kicked off by Capcom and was working on other projects, and now he is returning with The Evil Within, and I don't think it's a Capcom licensed game.
Bethesda is distributing it.
Yeah, so The Evil Within is supposed to kind of take the old stuff that everybody liked about the original Resident Evil games, about old survival horror, and mix it in with what current graphics can do, like, for example, what Dead Space could do, and mix them both together and give people a flavor of the old as well as a flavor of the new. Now, he's been getting a lot of criticism because some of the demos that have been coming out have not been all that great and not been all that horror-filled. Guaranteed, they're on con floors. They can't be that horrifying on the con floor. But a couple of fans have actually gotten their hands on it, a couple of reviewers, and they've played a good solid 10, 15 minutes and actually seen some of the more scary moments. And they actually are saying, yes, it is a blending of the old and the new. You're getting the disturbing imagery, but you're also getting what made survival horror an established franchise. You're getting limited ammo, limited health, or limited first aid, and things like that.
Yeah, like actually getting the survival part of survival horror.
Yes, where survival horror has become very forgiving in recent years, we're actually going back to basics as well as having the disturbing imagery that you can have with the current gen. So at this point, first of all, what are people's experience with survival horror, if you have any, and then also what you guys think of what The Evil Within is bringing to the table that is missing, kind of thing?
Well, my experience with survival horror, I mean, I've played the original Resident Evil. Granted, it was the DS port, Deadly Silence, with the bad voice acting and all. But basically, I played Resident Evil Deadly Silence. I played Resident Evil Outbreak File 1, and I've also played Resident Evil 4 and 5. And as for other survival horror stuff, I played a little bit of Silent Hill. Let's just say I've played a lot of the bad games. I haven't played a lot of the classics due to access. So I played Silent Hill Homecoming. I think so far the actually good survival horror game that I've ever actually played, sadly enough, would have to be the DS Resident Evil and the demo for Among the Sleep, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, and also you can chalk in Silent Hill, you can chalk in Alone in the Dark, the original Alone in the Dark games. They kind of pioneered this, where Silent Hill went more for the psychological.
One, Spirit Camera, that was another one.
Yeah.
Fatal Frame?
Yeah, the Fatal Frame spinoff for the 3DS, which, good to play on a Halloween night when you've got the evening free.
Yeah.
Not very portable, though.
Aldo, what is your experience with those? I actually think at some point did you review Resident Evil 6 for the Globe? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I think there was a Resident Evil 6.
I did do a Resident Evil review. It was for that
you did
3DS
Revelation.
title.
Yeah, you did Revelations.
Revelations, which was a little bit... It started going back to its roots. I mean, the series really has been trying. I mean, you can't tell, but it's been trying. I've lost many a good pair of pants to, like, Resident Evil 2.
I'm glad you admit that.
4. Yeah, no, I will admit it.
Yeah, because if it's not making you lose pants, it's not doing its job.
I will actually admit, when Resident Evil 4 came out for the first time, and we decided to play it for like a birthday celebration, me and my friends, and we got kicked out of the house because we couldn't, like, every time the thing would scare us or we were trying to kill something and it didn't make sense, we were screaming.
Well, when Resident Evil 4 came out, and the guy with the chainsaw comes, like, the first time you see him, and I couldn't open the door, like, to get inside a house, and he got me right outside the door. I was just sitting there going, like,
Exactly.
That whole death scene. Like, after it was done, I was just like, what just happened to me? But,
well, mine was, I got so used to the previous games having auto-target.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not auto-targeting! No, there's like 6 people!
I have to
I suck at this!
I first played 4 on the Wii, so, I mean, I had that control, so I couldn't.
Oh,
man.
It's actually decent.
Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, I would not even dare. I did on GameCube.
But apart from that, I mean, I did play it. I have played like the Silent Hill stuff, and I did play the. As I always need to specify, I played like the first 3, like screens of Fatal Frame 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, like those first 3 sets of scenery, and I was done. I couldn't. Nope.
So at this point, do we think that the Evil Within is going to bring things back to the roots? Is it going to redeem Resident Evil?
Well, probably not redeem Resident Evil since it's a rival company.
Or
but
redeem, I'm sorry, I
Shinji
said
Mikami.
that wrong. Regime survival horror.
Regime. That's like the
regime. The Shinji Mikami regime, which is going to focus on survival horror.
I was going to make like a Reggie Fils-Aimé joke, like that's when
my regime was ready.
or it's just more like where you have where a franchise is redeemed on a console thanks to influence by Reggie Fils-Aimé. It's like it was redeemed.
But
I really hope it does bring survival horror back to the actual survival horror stuff because I'm getting tired of the survival horror games being just action games in disguise, especially
that's what 6 was. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
and a little bit of 5 too. I mean, literally, they have Chris Redfield. Sorry, spoilers, by the way. They have Chris Redfield punch a boulder. That's officially where the series has jumped the shark. It's so much to the point where now
no, they jumped the shark with so many things before that. I mean, 4 was okay, but 5 jumped the shark in a lot of ways.
I want to say it can help bring horror survival back. I mean, a lot of people have been trying. You do have stuff like Amnesia, The Dark Descent,
or Slenderman.
Slenderman. So you do have those things, even though they are a little bit more based on like jump scares.
Well, but, like, Among the Sleeps actually looks pretty promising because that one does scare you just through its atmosphere. Even though it's only in its alpha stage, it looks promising.
But one of the best games I can call back to, I mean, as far as horror survival was, and I played the first one, was Dead Space.
Yes,
and that one did so many things right. It definitely had that Resident Evil feel to it, where you're kind of one man. You're not a hero. You're nothing special. You're going through this whole thing.
I mean, I didn't play Dead Space. I didn't play Dead Space, but I watched a Let's Play. I watched Jesse Cox play it.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, like, for the longest time, I could not understand why the original Alien, the Ridley Scott Alien, scared the living crap out of my dad and brother. Now I understand because the isolation factor is huge in it.
Exactly. So I mean, that's what the first Resident Evils had, was you had that isolation factor in the mansion, and then in Raccoon City, which even though you were in a city, you were still alone.
Yeah.
Dead Space definitely did that, and it did some really good next gen stuff that like the Alone in the Dark reboot tried to do, where they were trying to do no HUD. And I know Dead Space had a very limited HUD. You could gauge your health via the
that was
the thing on his back, and so it just required you to be a little bit more engrossed in the game, and that's essentially where the scares and the jumps came from. That's kind of what sold you on the horror and isolation and just the jump factor of the whole thing.
Pretty much. Alex, what is your experience? I probably have a guess as to what your experience is with survival horror, but what is it?
None.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So this doesn't really affect you at all.
Not particularly.
Probably not something you're going to pick up, even though you should pick up the other great titles of Shinji Mikami, which are Capcom's Aladdin and Goof Troop. Such a switch, right?
Well, yeah, and I think he also did the first Dino Crisis, I believe, actually, didn't he?
He was part of it, but more of a advisory role because it was Resident Evil with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So for me, my experience is just that I've played the first Resident Evil. I played probably all the way up to 5. 5 was enough for me that I said enough. I did not like the dual gameplay, and in some cases, in order for you to succeed, you had to have it. And in a lot of cases, these games, I'm playing alone. I'm not going to convince my wife to come and play this with me. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, I managed to muscle through 5 completely by myself, but that was just because
I eventually just I bit the bullet and just watched a Let's Play, and I'll tell you that game jumped the shark on so many levels, especially when it wasn't necessarily about zombies anymore. It was about freaking superhumans, and Jill being under the control of them, and
Yeah.
or it even jumped the shark in 4, where you had to rescue the president's daughter. You know,
The worst side effect that Resident Evil 5 ever had on anything wasn't even a Resident Evil title. It was Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where they took away the awesome Jill Valentine from number 2, and they replaced her with a crappy one
from 5. Yes,
from
and
5
that pissed
3.
me off.
Oh, because in 2 she could summon zombies and dogs. And
Exactly,
Jill,
and she could, and her final smash kind of thing was that she summoned the frickin' tyrant. You know, so at that point, I mean, I'm excited for the Evil Within, but like I said, I mean, I couldn't do Dead Space. I looked at that game and went, no, I can't play this. There's no way I'd get through it. Even on easy mode, I wouldn't get through it because, you know, everything is just so freaking disturbing. I will admit this on air right now.
On air and on camera.
After I finished the Jesse Cox Let's Play, couldn't sleep for like 5 days. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because every time I close my eyes, I'm seeing the horrible imagery that this game has been pushing into my face for the longest time. And so I'm like, oh, great, babies! You know?
Yeah, if only the people that had the license to the Alien franchise actually made an Alien survival horror game, but they're all just like, oh, let's just make a first-person shooter.
Yeah, that would be Alien versus Marines that did horribly and was done by Sega. Or, I'm sorry, Colonial piece of crap. That's just me, though. So overall, I'm excited for the Evil Within. I will be very happy to see if Shinji can pull survival horror back to its roots, where Resident Evil 6, I already heard, was just a horrible jump the shark moment.
Capcom lost like $200 million on it, both in production costs and advertising.
And to that point, Romney, I'm very happy because that actually got them to start reconsidering all this move towards demon slayers and zombie games, and actually start to consider bringing things like Strider or Mega Man back.
Well, yeah, even just a case of let's stop handing this stuff off to like outside studios who can risk messing it up by replacing a cool white-haired protagonist with a whiny 9-year-old.
Well, I mean, in a lot of cases, I even look at like Dead Rising, and I just sit there and go, this is just you're peddling to zombie slayers. There's nothing really there for me to be interested in, except for the fact that you're trying to basically create Evil Dead in Capcom form.
And even then, it's just it lost its sense of fun and campiness that were prevalent in the first game, and even in a little bit in Dead Rising 2, where it was just a case of, we know this is just a zombie game, but the idea is just to have fun with it, much like watching a bad horror movie.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of the things that made the original Resident Evil so good. I still remember, like, as a special feature, I hate the Resident Evil movies. I hate them. I did 2. And I was done after that. But I did hear, like, with the 4th one, they actually did dig out the original script for Resident Evil and have Mila Jovovich and the guy who played Chris Redfield in it, I guess, actually voice everything in it. And they actually put that as a DVD special feature. That was awesome because that dialogue to this day, freaking golden.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you consider the fact, I actually found a video on YouTube because everybody wonders, why were the actors in the live-action scene so bad? But then when I found this video, it explained why. Because they were having them move their mouths so that they could sync it up with Japanese voiceover. That's why they have the, no, don't go!
No, don't go!
Well, yeah, and then you actually hear the dialogue it's meant to go over it, and then I'm just like, that makes sense. But then you hear that they got rid of the Japanese dialogue because they thought, this sounds bad in Japanese. Let's keep it in English.
But let's just all admit, I mean, Aldo would be the master of unlocking here, would he not? I mean,
I would almost be a Jill sandwich.
Jill, you were almost an Aldo sandwich.
Let's just hope it's not Chris's blood.
Let's hope it's not Chris's blood. But overall, I'm excited for this. I will probably look into Let's Plays of the Evil Within. I don't know. I'm still having a problem getting through Dead Space 2 with Jesse Cox, so I don't know. It really is just the lines of, and Alex can kind of attest this concept, I get a little bit paranoid when I'm watching this kind of thing, and my wife gets horribly mad with me because I'm not easy to deal with at all at that point. So she's like, that's it, you're taking the sleeping pill, you're not watching this again, kind of thing. And so at that point, I do enjoy these stories, but I also don't want to get in trouble. So, and there's no way I'm going to convince her to sit down with me and watch, a Silent Hill Let's Play. Oh, that's never going to happen.
Not unless it's like Silent Hill the arcade.
Something like that. Or like House of the Dead would be, because that's corny. So at that point there would be, we can make fun of it as we go along.
It's like, this is the final battle.
We're meeting G over there, kind of thing. And that's how corny the dialogue is. And I think I could actually, at some point, Alex, we could do the first Resident Evil, because at that point, sure, you're getting scared, but at the same time, you're also trying to work your way to the next horrible dialogue segment and loving every minute of them. Yeah, I still love...
You could even turn into like a drunk gaming, like, take a shot for each iconically bad line.
For each Barry line, yeah. There's actually there's a local podcaster here that actually has the entire Barry script. Like all of his stuff. And so occasionally when he gets really bored on his podcast, he'll eventually just dig out Barry and he's like, Jill, here's a lockpick. I told you, my name is Scott. Jill, here's a lockpick. It's like, I don't want your stinking lockpick, Jill. Wow, that was really close. I'm going to open this door. Jill! And it's, dude, seriously, I'm not Jill! So, in the meantime, though, we do need to take a break since the technology hour is coming to a close. When we get back, we're going to be starting up with the entertainment hour. We've got lots of Marvel to talk about, but we've also got LeVar Burton. We've got plenty of raccoons. Well, we will make raccoons into these stories.
Reading raccoons.
I'm so glad you got my my hint there. We've got LeVar Burton, and we've also got Gareth Edwards, who is going to be stepping into one of the Star Wars spin-off films. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we return for more geek news, reviews, and opinions.
I aim to misbehave.
If you test me, you will fail.
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear. That comes later.
Okay, look, we both said a lot of things that you're going to regret. But I think we can put our differences behind us.
Thought this was over? But we've only just begun to geek out. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. People might wonder, wait, what about the snazzy intros you guys do? Pardon our dust, guys. It'll be on the YouTube release, I promise. And we will get the YouTube videos out. We actually have worked out all of our issues. They are coming. So we are very happy to announce that. We will be getting up both the most recent episodes as well as the older episodes so that people can enjoy. So people can actually figure out what we mean by raccoons. Because at this point, nobody understands that. And that was great moments, and we need to get it up on YouTube.
Indeed.
But welcome, everybody, to the Entertainment Hour. I, of course, am your host, Adam Mickelson. I am being joined by Stephen Romney, formerly of The Globe. Now he is his own thing doing Romney's reviews. Mm-hmm. And then also I'm being joined by Alex the Shadow Blazer Short. Mm-hmm. So he is joining us from the shadows of anime as well as many other things.
Hopefully not blazing by going out into the sunlight.
No, he's not doing that. But we don't know if he'll go good or evil like Shadow the Hedgehog. We just don't know. He could switch at any moment and get a different ending for it.
Or he'll just end up being a cyborg at the end with a whole bunch of other copies floating around.
A bunch of clones. And then we're also being joined by Aldo Gomez of The Globe. He is the game reviewer as well as all-around gamer and geek. And, of course, everybody here is a geek. So let's go ahead and get into the geekiness, shall we?
Let's.
We have tons of Marvel news, so I'm just going to get that out of the way right now because I want to get that done. First of all, the Daredevil producer has stepped down and been replaced. So we have mentioned this before, Aldo, where the Daredevil rights have gone back to Marvel, and now they're going to do a specific series regarding Daredevil.
Yeah,
Netflix exclusive.
Yeah.
Yes, Netflix exclusive, and they did have a producer set up. I believe it was Drew Goddard. He was gonna be the guy who was gonna do the series for a while. He has now stepped down, and they've actually in turn replaced him with Stephen DeKnight. And if people don't know who he is, the only reference that I could find for Stephen DeKnight was Spartacus. So
yeah, which I correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he the one that replaced the original actor after the actor from the first series passed away?
I believe so. He also has done other. He has worked with Drew Goddard on a couple of other things. They both wrote for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. So Double or Nothing, it sounds to me like their referral is through Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
So at that point, he's going to take on the Daredevil series, but also we did get announced the actor, and I'm skipping on his name right now. It was a British actor from, I guess, the series Empire. He's going to be coming in to play Matt Murdock. I might be wrong on that, but
oh yeah, from yeah, no, I remember. I remember reading the article and looking at the picture.
So it looks like the momentum is finally coming back to the Man with No Fear,
Man Without Fear,
or the Man Without Fear. And so first of all, Aldo, you're excited for this series. We both are.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So at this point, what do we think about Drew Goddard leaving, Stephen DeKnight coming back in? It doesn't really sound to me like the writing's going to change that much, because if they both wrote for Joss Whedon series.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of very up in the air because it is a Netflix production, but at the same time, it is having so much money thrown at it by Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That you are at the point where it does matter who you have directing and doing all these things.
Well, and in a lot of cases, a lot of people have complained, why don't you do a movie? There are some Marvel characters that just wouldn't work in movie form.
Or at least
I'm not saying the Ben Affleck movie was bad by any stretch. I still go back to it and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think it's just more specifically like some characters wouldn't work as a movie in the Marvel Studios family-friendly target demographic sense.
Which I wouldn't even say. Definitely I agree with that. But the right story, right circumstances, you definitely can do things with Daredevil. But I think characters like street heroes per se. Work a lot better serialized. That's why you do have a lot of those characters like Iron Fist, Power Man.
Yeah, that's
Jessica
why I like
Jones.
the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would actually prefer a Spider-Man TV series because he is.
I wouldn't mind that either.
Because he does kind of swing between epic Marvel hero to street hero. He does. Mm-hmm. He has been on kind of both sides of the coin.
I guess that's kind of what they try to do with Ultimate Spider-Man, though, on occasion.
Well, the problem is that they're only willing to do animated series at this point because Spider-Man apparently can't be done in live action. And here's the thing. I would not mind a live-action Spider-Man film. If anything, it allows for more character development, which the Amazing Spider-Man movies... I know you have your feelings on it. I know you have yours, Aldo. But there isn't a lot because you can't do that. You've got to fit in these action sessions as much as you can.
Especially in the second film, that's especially true.
Especially the Gwen Stacy storyline would have more impact on me.
Oh, don't bring up that woman to me. Don't.
It would have had more. It would have had more impact if that would have happened in a second season rather than a second movie.
Exactly. I think a series would actually do...
or at least that they held off until a third movie to actually go through with it instead of rushing and tacking it on at the end.
Anyways, but I'm excited. I really can't comment personally on either of the people that have been put on because I've never paid much attention to their careers. I didn't watch Boardwalk Empire, and I saw a little bit of Spartacus, and I do know that for the most part, when that actor replaced him, the fan reaction was pretty accepting of him.
Yes,
which leads me to believe that either he looked a lot like him, or he did a good job.
At this point, I don't even like. I've actually gotten to the point where, like, if I see a character announcement, I'm waiting until I see you on the screen. Yeah. Because this point, I could not think of a single person to play Peter Parker, and then Tobey Maguire came along. And I don't think he did a bad job with those movies, but when Andrew Garfield came along, I think that was a better fit.
I'm still of the opinion that Topher Grace would have been a much better Peter Parker.
At least better than Eddie Brock.
That just goes into the whole thing of I'm so sick and tired of Peter Parker syndrome. Either do it right or, do it where it's actually fixing a.k.a. Joe Quesada problems, or just don't do it. Just go and do Miles Morales. Yes. I don't care. I would actually, you know what? If I saw a series, I'm not reading the books. If I saw a series with Miles in it, I might pick up the books and just see if they do better with him.
Yeah, or if they do something based on Superior Spider-Man, that would definitely get some eye.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind a Doc Ock Peter Parker. That would be at least something. But the problem that I've had with Spider-Man for so long is that he's remained stagnant, where his fan base has grown up, and that's my issue. And One More Day and A Moment in Time are the perfect examples of that problem.
All attributed to Joe Quesada.
Darn you, Joe Quesadilla.
he might actually be higher on my hate list than Michael Bay. I must admit, Aldo, he might be higher on my hate list. Might be, because I still do like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and that was him. So that's kind of redeeming.
Until it got canceled.
Until it got canceled.
Until it got canceled. Are we talking the TV series, or is there a comic called?
No, the TV series.
No, the TV series. I loved it.
It got canceled and then reformed into Avengers Assemble.
And that's crap. That is I hate that series. It is.
For some reason, somebody thought that we needed an entirely Hulk-centric TV show as well.
Yes.
I didn't. I could just tell from looking at it. I guess it's because they were trying to make it match what was going on in the current run of the Hulk comics, because that's kind of where the Hulk is at, where he does lead a team with She-Hulk, Rick Jones, and whoever the fourth person is. Not a big fan of Thunder Hulk Ross.
Yeah,
I'm just not. I was making a joke.
So at that point, let's actually move over to the other story, which is actually kind of coupled together, because Drew Goddard and Stephen DeKnight actually did comment on this particular story, which was Edgar Wright. This happened a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to cover it now because now we're getting some of the details for it. Edgar Wright, who was set to do the first third-wave Marvel movie, Ant-Man, and he'd done the script, he had done all that stuff. They just hadn't cast Ant-Man yet.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, they did. It was Paul Rudd.
Yeah, it was Paul Rudd.
Okay, I hadn't heard that a person had been cast.
I haven't heard if he's dropping the project or not.
No, I think Paul Rudd is still staying on.
I think so.
So at that point, Edgar Wright left the project, and we didn't know really what happened there. Now we've got at least some clue as to why the former director of Scott Pilgrim, who was going to do Ant-Man,
Scott
has
Pilgrim,
left the project.
Shaun of the Dead, World's End, the whole Cornetto trilogy.
So at this point, we have just kind of something to work with. A lot of it sounds like vague creative differences, rewrites of scripts. They didn't, or maybe Marvel didn't like where he was going with Ant-Man, trying to do some story.
Yeah, the big speculation a lot of people think is that they already have their quirky, risky film with Guardians of the Galaxy, and they figure, well, we can't have two quirky, risky films.
Yeah, and where he kind of wrote it that way, now he's getting constant requests for rewrites, and he doesn't like that.
I want to assume that, seeing his past projects,
I love Scott Pilgrim. I'll admit that.
I'm actually talking specifically about Scott Pilgrim, is that the fact that movie was so faithful to the to the comics. I'm actually afraid that, well, not afraid, I'm actually just of the opinion that he might have done the whole wife beating thing. He might have actually written that into the
especially
storyline.
When you cast someone like Michael Douglas to be Hank Pym.
I think, I legitimately think that that's the story that he wrote, and just like Iron Man 2, they asked him to scale that back, because Iron Man 2 was supposed to focus on the whole demon in a bottle storyline, and they scaled that way back because it's a terribly dark story.
Even though that story would have worked better for Iron Man 3 in the wake of the events of Avengers instead of as Iron Man 2.
Definitely.
Yes.
But point is, Marvel, as much as they love taking risks, that's a line they don't necessarily want to cross. They don't want to,
especially with Disney backing them. They're not going to do that.
And I think even without Disney, they're doing so well grabbing the entire
the biggest piece of the pie, basically.
Exactly. I think they would have scaled that back.
And I think the other problem also is that Ant-Man is a relatively unknown. And so at this point, my biggest questions for this film has always been, okay, how are you going to do this? Because if you do it wrong, then Ant-Man faithfuls are going to come at you in droves. Now, when they had Edgar Wright, I thought they would be faithful, but you've kind of pointed out the problem is another thing that comes to mind. And also the other thing that came to my mind was a lot of these movies are based off Ultimate Universe, and Hank Pym's not a nice guy in the Ultimate Universe. He's trying to kill
the idea is that with
Janet Van Dyke at least 3 times.
Well, but the idea is that they had Michael Douglas playing Hank Pym because there was going to be kind of flashback, but Hank Pym was going to be older because the main character of the Ant-Man film was going to be Scott Lang, which is why they cast Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Another point of contention that I heard that may have been a point of contention for Edgar Wright leaving is the fact that now it's going to be the case that Tony Stark creates Ultron as opposed to Hank Pym.
Yes, that actually kind of bugged me too, because it would have been a really great idea to hold off on Age of Ultron until you could actually introduce Hank Pym, because that would have been a better story instead of trying to find a way to shoehorn in Robert Downey Jr. without having to pay him the big bucks.
As well as trying to incorporate Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it also goes into the case that Phase 3 is supposed to kind of focus on more of the magic-based side of the Marvel Universe, but now everything kind of is thrown into a whack because of the Thanos lawsuit.
Yeah.
Exactly. And on top of that, we've also got the whole issue of trying to bring, they've been trying to figure out for a while now how to bring in Stephen Strange, and it's just becoming a major problem. But I have noticed that we haven't heard from Alex on this stuff. Now, you don't really go into Netflix or anything like that, so let me ask you honestly. I mean, does this stuff concern you? I mean, were you actually going to pick up the Marvel series that were going to hit Netflix, and would you actually go and see Ant-Man if they did it?
I might see Ant-Man if something grabs me about it. Daredevil I'm intrigued about, but I'm kind of more wishing it was a movie.
So sorry, let me ask you a question, because, I mean, it seems like, at least as far as, American comic books, you seem to be the more outside point of view-ish, at least from what little bit I know. Do you know anything, or just from press releases, just the regular news, what do you know about Ant-Man?
Nothing. This is kind of the first time I'm hearing about Ant-Man.
The problem is that Ant-Man is, like, to most collective consciousness, he is a third stringer for the Avengers. Mm-hmm. And that's really where he only sticks. I mean, I remember when that old 90s series of the Avengers tried to come out and try to make him more edgy. Of
course they tried pulling out all the, like, lesser-known characters for that series, because they already had the X-Men animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, that whole animated universe. And so they're just like, well, let's focus on Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Vision, Wonder Man, like the lesser-known characters, even though they were like the crossovers that they were trying to get into the works. Yeah. And so, Ant-Man's probably not necessarily that well known.
Ant-Man's pretty obscure, but he is like one of the smartest men of the Marvel Universe.
And founding member of the Avengers, because Avengers #1, he was one of the first people to bring the whole team together.
Exactly. He was one of the filler heroes that they could bring in and have it be managed and not have to have Captain America be there the entire time.
Well, yeah, because when in the Marvel Universe,
because they didn't want to repeat Justice League where Superman only helps like a fourth of the time.
Well, yeah, and plus Captain America was still frozen at that point in Marvel history, and so they're just like, well, he's still in a giant ice cube, so we can't necessarily have him
pretty much
brought in yet.
So at this point, you would be excited to see Ant-Man just because you don't really know a whole lot about Hank Pym,
or Scott Lang,
or Scott Lang. So, but you were saying that you would prefer a movie of Daredevil.
Yes, I'm like you. I do actually enjoy the original Mark Steven Johnson Daredevil. Director's cut more so, because director's cut's a little more put together than the theatrical cut. But yeah, I've been waiting for another Daredevil movie pretty much since the first one, and instead we got Elektra, and then, and then the franchise just kind of tanked and went away. And
Sony realized, or was it?
I think it was Fox.
That had it?
It was Fox that had it,
and they just realized they couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, Fox had like all of them, but then I think Sony bought Spider-Man from Fox.
Yes. So at that point, it's like I've kind of said here. I think Daredevil would be perfect for this kind of line. I actually think a series would be a little bit more credited to the character of Matt Murdock, because then you could actually go into some of the stories that he has. And in fact, that'd be a really great way that if you wanted to, say, introduce the Kingpin, it would be like in the Marvel Universe. You do it with Matt
as well
Murdock.
As go into some of the darker territories of,
and not the Michael Clark Duncan one.
Hey, I liked the Michael Clark Duncan one.
I liked it, but
loved Michael Clark Duncan.
I'm not
as the
saying
Kingpin.
it was bad. I'm saying that as far as the Wilson Fisk that I know, it didn't match up. It was a new Wilson Fisk that's why in a lot of cases I call him the Michael Clark Duncan Kingpin and not Wilson Fisk.
I actually don't think we'll get a better Kingpin than Michael Clark Duncan. That is my opinion. But like.
Well, because Marlon Brando isn't around anymore. That's the only guy who can match.
But the only other Kingpin I've seen was the Donald Reese Evans one for the trial of the Incredible Hulk, and he was just not that good, because that movie was supposed to be a backdoor pilot for a Daredevil TV series back when Bill Bixby was still alive.
But one thing that this does make me optimistic is that if the whole first wave, I'm gonna go ahead and call it first wave confirmed of Marvel Netflix movies does really well. New Avengers does really well. I would like to see a second set of like more of these heroes. More than anything, I would love to see a Shadowlands storyline for Daredevil.
Well, yeah, because I know that the Netflix series that they're going to kind of go through each character, like Daredevil, Luke Cage, and then it's all going to culminate into the Defenders.
A series allows for you to go into all the details of a complex comic. At that point, like. For example, I think The Winter Soldier was still a good movie, but a series would have allowed you to go into all the depth of the comic and actually tell all the stories that maybe they had to cut out. Another good example would be if you want to tell like an epic Thor storyline, you could do that where Thor comes in and helps Daredevil. You could do that. And then at that point, do you have to have Chris Hemsworth per se? No. You could just subtly make it that, a hammer appears in the background and it can focus on him. I mean, the best example is Arrow. Arrow has worked out really well for the CW, so... And I'm not even a fan of Green Arrow. That makes me interested.
I'm not gonna lie. When you said that, I just imagined like this whole scene between like Daredevil and Thor talking, and every time it cuts to Thor, it's not even his face. It's just like it's just a shadow face. No, it's just like the shot of his hammer. Sorry.
All I can see is the ping of the hammer. But yeah, so I'm totally excited for this concept, and then also. So I where I agree with you, like another movie would be a good thing. A series would probably be better for somebody like Daredevil and probably even Ant-Man, so that people can get to know Hank Pym before he has a movie debut.
And as much as I'm really excited for like the Stephen Strange story, because I do love all the arcane elements of Marvel, I actually think he'd be much better for a TV series.
Yes, he would.
Especially because he does serve almost as a detective.
Well, because Marvel, in the magic in the Marvel universe is very lax. I mean, they don't really go into it that much. In fact, Stephen Strange is kind of their allegory for magic in the Marvel universe.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they did try to bring magic in some other storylines, like with the Runaways with Nico Minoru and some of those other characters, but even then, it still takes a back seat to much larger stuff that goes on. I mean, Runaways, I think, pretty much sums it up perfectly, where they basically just, we have a magical member, but kind of takes a backseat since that one's more of like a quote-unquote team sort of story.
Yeah, I would dare say like the DC Universe has more magic integration than Marvel does.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can name like 3 characters off the top of the head. Captain Marvel, Raven, and
Zatanna.
Zatanna, and...
Zatara as well.
Zatara. Who's the... It's not... Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate in the DC Universe.
And there's also Orchid, and there's also Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Etrigan, there's Etrigan as well.
Solomon Grundy is magic-based in his creation. So at that point, there's more magic in there. So Stephen Strange is really just kind of the allegory.
Like Stephen Strange, a little bit of Scarlet Witch, although they try to kind of give a scientific explanation for what she does, but then they just say, you know what, she can just mess with reality. Let's not be too specific.
Exactly. It's just it gets screwed up after that. Plus, on top of that, Stephen Strange's villains show up more than Stephen Strange actually does. So I've seen Dormammu show up in other comics, and of course. Mephisto!
Oh my gosh, this is a really fantastic one shot that I did. What did they do it for? I can't remember. No, it was like an anniversary issue, and they were making fun of all the Marvel movies.
Yes,
and they did a little one shot where Dormammu comes out and he's like going to destroy Earth, but at the same time comes Galactus and comes like all these villains, all these like world destroying villains, and all the heroes are just kind of sitting there going like, well, what's going on? And these guys are like, I'm here to destroy the Earth. And so like the next shot is just all these world destroying villains sitting around like a whiteboard making a schedule of who gets to try to destroy Earth on what day.
So at 10 a.m. Galactus gets to eat the world, and then at 9 a.m. Dormammu gets to absorb all the souls.
Yeah, that just sounds like a sort of like a Deadpool sort of story, because I remember the last issue of Deadpool Team Up was
that would be another good Netflix series is Deadpool.
Well, yeah, because like the last issue of Deadpool Team Up had Deadpool becoming a herald of Galactus, but then Galactus getting so annoyed because Deadpool won't shut up.
Deadpool is Deadpool.
Did you guys ever see the what was it called? Another Normal Tuesday? It was like a 10 or 12 minute fan made short of Deadpool. And it's really well made. Look for it. I think it's called just Another Normal Tuesday or something.
Okay.
And it's really well done because I mean they really pull the whole Deadpool influence, and there's a point where he's getting gunned down and he hides behind like these little bunker of like bags of sand or whatever, and he has a thought, and a guy comes around from the corner and he grabs his thought and defends himself with it. And after he kills the guy, he's like, no, yellow word bubble. and it appears again, and he's like, you're back.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, we actually need to take a quick break. When we get back, after the microphone squeaks, we're going to have LeVar Burton, how he apparently is trying to kickstart Reading Rainbow back into the mainstream. And then we're also going to get into Gareth Edwards, because he's been given a very unique project after Godzilla, which is to start doing Star Wars spin-off movies. But in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC. So we have two other stories to talk about in the Entertainment Hour, and again, it's become very slow because everybody's waiting for the Electronic Entertainment Expo to happen, and then we'll start getting some of the big news stuff. But I also I want to get through these stories quickly because I do want to bring up X-Men because I think all of us have seen it. I'm not sure about Aldo, yes. But we need to talk about that a little bit. So let's just go ahead and go through these really quick. LeVar Burton is looking to kickstart Reading Rainbow. What is that you can see? A butterfly in the sky?
We can go twice as high.
Just take a look because it's in a book. Because it's Reading Rainbow?
Reading Rainbow!
I just kind of want to point out that he's not trying. He succeeded.
Yeah.
1 million in one day.
In fact, I think Kickstarter...
Yeah, I actually am saying that wrong. He did kickstart Reading Rainbow.
And I think actually Kickstarter gave him... There's an award medal that they give, and he received it, and it's called the Pot of Gold medal, and it just means he raised over $1 million
because
in 1 day.
I think
he did it under 12 hours.
I'm trying to think. Did Tim Schafer get that for Broken Age? I can't remember.
I think no.
Because I know that he was asking for like $400,000 and he got $3 million, and it was pretty freaking quick when he got $3 million.
I think it took a couple of days. I know this one they gave it to him because he raised it in less than 12 hours. But then again,
gotcha.
That's what happens when you have George Takei and half the world going like, "This is something you should fund."
Exactly. Well, I find it funny. He went to a Star Trek source just to get it advertised.
Well, I just like how in the Kickstarter video, after he makes his whole speech, he has Brent Spiner come up to the same elementary school. "Hi, I'm Brent Spiner." Like, just like sign in and sit over, and then he's just like, "Oh."
Yeah.
But like everybody recognizes LeVar Burton, but nobody recognizes Brent
That's actually
Spiner.
one of those things where I would like to see like a rehash of like the episode where he actually took Reading Rainbow to the Star Trek The Next Generation set. It'd be really cool if he went like to some of the older sets or even to like the new JJ or the new Star Trek sets.
I mean, maybe if they can convince J.J. Abrams or the people at
Paramount.
Paramount.
At this point, it would be Roberto Orci.
Well, yeah,
convince.
like that's just director. Abrams is still staying on the producer, but I think Paramount probably would be up for that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, totally they would.
Especially if it means more publicity for them and not publicity going to Star Wars. But then again, J.J. Abrams may go in and saying, "Hey, come to the Star Wars set."
Exactly. So at
either
that
which
point,
would still be pretty cool.
Well, yeah, LeVar's going to get that because LeVar's got enough clout to be able to do that. Are we excited for Reading Rainbow making its triumphant return?
Sure.
I actually did. I'll be honest. I didn't think it got canceled. I knew Mr. Rogers had passed on, but I thought Reading Rainbow was still going on. It just wasn't LeVar doing it.
I was actually surprised because I was reading the history, and they stopped doing episodes in 2006, and I was like, that's pretty recently. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's when I got my driver's license. Huh. And then they stopped doing reruns in 2009 for whatever reason.
It was actually, he actually explained in an interview that the reason that they stopped doing reruns and that they stopped making episodes was because of the No Child Left Behind Act. It was just kind of the case. The way that they explained it to him was that the priority was teaching kids to read, not necessarily to love reading. And so they already had shows like Sesame Street and Between the Lions doing all that. And so they figured, well, we don't really need Reading Rainbow. And so he saw, and it's kind of smart of LeVar Burton to actually see it. And like, he saw all the backlash of people saying, oh, like, this show was so important. And so he decided to buy the rights and he made the Reading Rainbow app. And I really like how he's trying to make it so that schools can use the Reading Rainbow stuff for free.
Mm-hmm. So that's really nice of him to do.
So, I mean, have you guys, it sounds like, Romney, that you have you two heard the details about, like, the Kickstarter thing?
I only know it vaguely.
I've done quite a bit of research looking at it because I was considering contributing.
I heard the story myself, but I didn't know what it was really about.
For me, it was just like, I know of a dozen Kickstarters that are going on, and so at that point, I'm like, I wait until I can get some more details before I consider contributing. So like, for example, Shroud of the Avatar, totally contributed, kind of thing.
So one of the big points for this project in particular was that, I think he said with like every $10,000, or no, I think he said like with $1 million, he could take the whole Reading Rainbow program, application, whatever thing, and provide it to 1,500 schools at no cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which was really cool. And he's talking about the reason the Kickstarter exists is so that he can make it as free as possible to everybody.
That would be good. I mean, as long as he can make that work.
Part of the thing that he's doing too is that he wants to move it from just an app, because I mean they have the Rainbow app, but he said he points out, I realize that not every school can provide pads or tablets to kids. So part of that money also goes to making a web-based program.
Like a web-based program
like
and
web streaming.
resources for teachers as well.
Exactly. So it's just this giant program that's just to promote literacy. And I am one of those kids that says, if it hadn't been for LeVar Burton, I probably would not enjoy reading as much as I do today.
In my case, if it hadn't been for Reading Rainbow, I never would have developed an interest in film because it was because of the episode where he went to the Next Generation set. Even though I'd never seen the show, had no interest in Star Trek, I became so fascinated with the process of what it took to make the show that's what got my interest in
film. And
film.
even better, like in my case, I didn't even realize he was part of the cast until years later. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, oh, that's cool. He was part of the cast too, so that's how he got that happening.
I was an immigrant kid that came over here at 6 years old. I never really read all that much. I read the books that I had to and did as much English as I could.
Yep.
It was because of watching Reading Rainbow that I started reading books that seemed interesting, that just gave me a love for reading and in fact helped me actually make English my first language.
Yeah, and not to mention some of the history stuff that came along, like with the Follow the Drinking Gourd episode. That one was pretty powerful.
And one of the cool things is that if you donated $10,000, you could get your picture taken with LeVar Burton, as well as when you get your picture taken, you could wear his visors from the Next Generation.
I will actually point out the fine print here. You're wearing the visor, not him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's one of the things that he gets asked every time when he goes to any kind of a con to talk about it. And everybody's like, so when you were wearing the visor, did it hurt? Or how did it feel? And he's like, it hurt a lot. Thank you for bringing that back to me.
And I think if you donated $100, I think it was $100 or $500 or something, he would call you and leave a personal voicemail.
Well, yeah, one was like personal outgoing voicemail. Another was that you could Skype with him for like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And like some of the other ones were like, if you go into like the thousands ones, like one is that you could choose a school, you could nominate a specific school to get the Reading Rainbow stuff, and even higher, like, this school not only gets the Reading Rainbow stuff, but he'll come to the school and give a presentation as well.
That would be nice of him. So overall, I think this is a good thing. Congrats to LeVar Burton. If he's able to make it work out, then great, good on him. I would have no problem funding this, unlike Shaq Fu 2.
Well, for me, my last kind of final word for it is that this is the right way to use your star power. Because,
yes,
I don't want to say that, whatever Zach Braff and Veronica Mars are doing isn't important. Because,
sure,
it's a thing. I think this is the best example of somebody, like him and like George Takei that does all the publicity for
the only thing that would concern me on that is I want lasting power to this, and LeVar I think has got that in mind.
I think so, and again, if you go through all the details, you can tell that this is set up to last for a while. But
yeah,
I just think that this is probably the best example that we have today of a star using their star powers
to actually make the world a better place, basically.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into Gareth Edwards, and we actually have one other story that the Shadow Blazer actually suggested for us. So we'll get to that too, and then we're going into X-Men.
No, it's not.
Actually, let's get into that really quick, Alex. Okay. So the story is that the lawsuit that was going on with Funimation and Sentai Filmworks. Wow, I remembered the names. Aren't you so happy for me?
Yeah, congratulations.
For Funimation and Sentai Filmworks were in dispute over the ADV assets. And so that has actually been resolved?
Yes, it's been settled. Settled and officially dismissed.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you guys know anything of the background about this?
Most I know about was that there was a bit of a scramble to get a lot of the assets when ADV went belly up, because there were a lot of high-profile series they got licenses to.
I just know the names of stuff. I didn't realize that was a thing going on. But like you guys say ADV and Sentai Works and all these things, and I'm like, I know all these franchises. Well, the franchises they own.
Yeah, because ADV was like one of the few that did serious distribution of anime as well as catering to kids, because I know they were the ones that had the license to Saint Seiya for a while and a few other shows.
My knowledge of it is, you kind of know my knowledge of it, which is I know I'm following everything Funimation is doing, because there has actually been rumors that Funimation is in talks with Bandai to bring back Gundam to U.S. shores. So at this point, when I hear lawsuits going against Funimation, that just makes me cringe, because I want Gundam back here. And that could jeopardize that. Well, yes. So that's the most I ever knew.
Especially in the wake of like the TV Tokyo lawsuit against 4Kids, and how a lot of Japanese studios are becoming more wary of licensing their stuff to American distributors.
Yeah. So at this point, do we know the actual ADV loss or assets that were in dispute? Or
it was pretty much every anime series or movie that Funimation bought off of the floundering ADV films back in 2008.
Yeah.
Which it's more than a dozen shows, more than I could even begin to list right now.
Yeah. Well, we could probably go into detail a little bit more with that on our own, but
some of the Evangelion stuff on ADV?
No, that was that was like the
Gainax.
Gainax produces it, but Geneon had the license here in the U.S.
Genion had it for a while, and then
ADV
Genion, I think, went belly up.
ADV Films did have the license to pretty much all the Evangelion property up until Funimation came out with the new movies.
I'm sorry, we're dealing with the person who can do 6 degrees of Hideki Anno, so we make that joke, but he can do it. I'm waiting for the day.
That's why he's unofficially my best friend.
Well, we've been making the joke that eventually he will find a way to do 6 degrees of Hideki Anno and Kevin Bacon, and then at that point the universe will implode. That's cool. So at that point the ADV assets can start being utilized either by Sentai Film, or it sounds to me like Funimation will probably utilize them.
Yeah, well, the Funimation's had them and they've been using them. The problem was the lawsuit was about unpaid debts, supposedly that Sentai owed.
Okay.
Back to Funimation. So I'm glad this has been resolved because we don't need two distributors fighting each other when...
No.
Especially kind of, and also sending the message to the studios in Japan saying the Americans can't handle any of this stuff. Let's not do business with them. I mean, that's why we even have like manga companies like Kodansha opening their own branches. And so that could even be a case where anime companies in Japan might just do that, where we're just going to open our own U.S. branch and control it ourselves.
Exactly.
Which always sounds ideal, but the way I'm seeing it with the way Aniplex USA runs things is not.
Yeah.
But this means that we could get J-Stars All-Stars Victory on the shores.
And it could be done on Anime Overdub ES on YouTube.
What?
And it could be done on Anime Overdub ES on YouTube.
Darn tootin'.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are a few other hurdles, though, especially with certain Jump series. I mean, case in point, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. There's a lot of legal stuff attached to that they'd have to sort through first.
And stuff like Naruto.
Right, exactly. So I hate to bust through this, but we're running out of time, and I do want to get to X-Men at some point. Okay. So Gareth Edwards is the Godzilla director. He's had a lot of success, enough that Godzilla 2 is going to be done. He's actually been approached by, I believe it was Disney that did it, and he's actually been asked to helm a Star Wars spin-off series. Now, we don't know too much about it, except for it will not be tied to the episodes. It might be in the same timeline, but not in that case, where it's going to be its own continuity, but it would be a side story. Yeah, so at that point, it would be trying to tell, like, if they were going to do Obi-Wan's granddaughter, then they could do it this way, kind of thing, and set her up.
And a lot of the popular rumors, and some of the titles that have been dropped, is that the rumors is that they're going to be doing like a young Han Solo spinoff, a Boba Fett spinoff.
Because a lot of people want to see the Han Solo story where, it's in canon where he was part of the Empire and then he left.
Yeah, kind of the Imperial Mean, which is how he met Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And the idea is that they're going to alternate with an episode, then a spinoff, episode, then a spinoff, and that's the production schedule Disney's outlined.
Can I give you guys my pitch for the Gareth Edwards Star Wars movie?
Exactly.
That should be. So, here's my pitch. It's Boba Fett. You can do either young Boba Fett, you can do old Boba Fett. I don't care. But the story is that he gets hired to go kill a Jedi on some sort of like island planet, and he goes, and there's this giant, crazy, force poisoned monster. So you do get the Gareth Edwards giant monster theme into it, and then he gets there, but it's not a Jedi; it's actually a Sith, and he finds out that the person that hired him was a Jedi who was too cowardly for some reason, so he kills the Sith. So you get your Boba Fett killing Jedi/Sith theme in there. He goes back and then he murders that Sith.
See, I actually kind of aimed this towards you because we got a picture of Luke Skywalker riding Godzilla. So at that point, I was like, let's help the inspiration flow.
I think
for Aldo.
A better way to probably improve upon that. I mean, him hunting down the Sith, obviously from Star Wars Bounty Hunter, but even then, if we were to do like an actual kind of serious maybe Bounty Hunter story with even. I know there was like a extended universe storyline that involved some of the Jedi that hid in the wake of Order 66.
Yes.
And one was basically a Star Wars detective sort of series where a Jedi was hiding out as a detective. So it could even be a case where that Jedi detective hires Boba Fett to go after a particular person. If you want to have the giant monster.
You want to know another thing that would be really cool to do? Obi-Wan on Tatooine and how he's learning how to master Qui-Gon's
and basically
guidance.
How to give exposition after death.
Yeah, exactly. Luke, or I'm sorry, Obi-Wan, you must learn to do exposition after death, and if you do not, I will find you. And I will kill you.
Well, yeah,
and you will have to deliver exposition after death.
Well, yeah, and Ewan McGregor has stated that he is interested in coming back to Star Wars. Both him and Sam Jackson, they say they both want to come back.
Yes, yes, right. But right now, I do know that he has offered, but JJ has ultimately said hold back for a minute because they want to establish the story that they have right now, which is Han Solo oriented.
They've got a lot of damage control to do first.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I would love to really see is the last few years, and we've seen sort of these anime spin-offs, right? These anthology spin-offs. We had one for Batman. We had one for Halo. We had one for Dante's Inferno. Now I want to see one for Star Wars.
Exactly.
It could work. Problem is that since Disney owns the rights to it, they would probably... Most I could see is that maybe if they get Disney Japan to helm it, but they probably wouldn't have the wide range of anime directors like they did for Batman Gotham Knight.
Maybe Ghibli, though, because they do have a good relationship with Ghibli.
That was where I was going. Maybe go to Ghibli and ask them to do something.
Well, yeah, because I know Toho has connections with other anime studios as well, aside from Ghibli. Like, Toho just owns Ghibli, but sometimes they...
And we can have a Hideaki Anno Star Wars short.
Everything comes back to Hideaki Anno!
Oh, God, give it to Gainax. Lord knows Gainax has been full of Star Wars fanboys.
No, I do not want a female Jedi Gainaxi. I don't want it.
Hey, it's better than Madhouse getting it.
Oh, yes.
That's true.
Keep it away from Madhouse.
Well, Madhouse did fair enough with the Batman shorts, but maybe not for a full series.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only series of the Marvel anime Madhouse that did somewhat right was Blade, but that was because that fit more into what Madhouse does, but everything else is just...
Black anime protagonists?
Not just that, but just the whole gore with the vampire stuff. That's more Madhouse's style, which is a real shame, because, I mean, I remember watching Final Fantasy Unlimited and actually kind of liking what they did, but they've shied away from some of the more innocent, more approachable stuff, because, like, we want to be like the serious OAV people.
Oh, man. All right, so now we're actually almost out of time, so I actually do want to get to this, because we have... reviews in our title, and we actually haven't done a whole lot of reviews. We covered Godzilla last week, and I want to get into X-Men, because this came out, and I have my thoughts on it, and actually I've been fried a little bit for my thoughts on it. I don't know about you, Romney, but...
Adam, welcome to die.
Ha! Ha! Radio SLCC, welcome to die!
You have wrong opinions.
I am Magneto, master of opinions.
Yeah, for those who don't get it, that's a reference to the X-Men arcade game, by the way.
Oh, come on. It's well known. It's geek culture now. So overall, I remember watching your review on it. You were okay with it. You had some issues, obviously, but you overall came out liking it.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of the discrepancies with the other movies, but I think the best thing I stated in the review is that rather than try to fit it in the canon of the other X-Men movies, it's best to just see it more as a sequel to First Class.
Well, and at this point, it's a retcon also. I mean, if you look at it that way, all the other X-Men movies that are supposedly under scrutiny and Bryan Singer might have been involved, now they're not canon. Well, so at that point, please forgive us.
It was just Bryan Singer's way of saying, sorry.
Wave the white flag.
So at this point, people kind of know where I'm at and where, at least to some extent, where you were at with our review.
Yes.
Where Alex was at. Aldo, how did you end up coming out of this film?
I quite loved it, actually.
Okay.
It's mostly because I don't take comic book movies that seriously. I mean, I do, because I would love to see like X-Men get like an Oscar nomination for like best special effects. Definitely not for best story.
Oh man,
never gonna happen. But okay.
No,
but I mean, that's kind of my hope. But like, so I mean, that's kind of at the same time I don't take them so seriously. So. And the fact that it is essentially just a reboot, a retcon, whatever you want to call it.
I was actually going to say, movies just became comics because we just had a giant retcon.
Yeah. It's official. So, we've come full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm kind of okay with it. My only real complaint was that, they used the original cast for the end sequence, which to me just says... a lot of these actors are too old to do stories.
And were paid way more than they should have been for how long they were on screen. Because, like, I remember hearing Anna Paquin got paid her full acting amount, and she's not in the movie for more than 2 seconds.
She got cut from it, and she had a whole scene and apparently had to get cut, and she was very understanding of what happened. I mean, why wouldn't you be? You got paid.
Yeah, exactly.
But overall, I was excited, and I loved... one thing that Bryan Singer does so well that I opinionate that nobody else really does is the fight sequences. He knows how to use mutants' powers, and that's very apparent. So, like,
does he now? Does he? Because that script for Last Stand, he was part of that.
He was part of it, but the thing is that he had left the franchise to do.
Yes, he had.
So Brett Ratner's the one who did most of the damage, not so much.
So
Bryan
I just want to say, I mean. The two best superpower fight scenes, in my opinion, that I've seen in my top 5.
Yeah,
2 of them are from X-Men movies, and one of them is the Nightcrawler assassination scene from
that
X-Men 2.
That is pretty cool.
And in this one, the Blink fight scenes. automatically those went straight to my
I'm just
top
happy
5.
that Iceman finally became freaking Iceman. You know, they built that up for so long, and then Brett Ratner came in and just pooed all over everything. But I will state my opinion on this, and I'm just going to leave it out to people because Alex already knows what's going to happen when I state this. I think this could have been done. It didn't necessarily have to have Bryan Singer attached to it. I've seen a lot of stories saying, no, Bryan had to be attached because if he wasn't attached, Patrick wouldn't come back, Ian wouldn't have come back, Hugh wouldn't have come back, Hallie wouldn't have come back. Bullcrap. They would have come back. If you paid them enough, they would have come back.
And even if say Hallie didn't come back, nobody's going to really.
I would have been happy if Hallie had not come back.
And I'm pretty sure Hugh Jackman would come back for free.
Yeah.
He's offering to go to Marvel. Of course he's going to come back.
Yeah.
But at that point, I'm going to, again, state, Halle Berry, why? I mean, at that point, it's one of those things where I look towards Apocalypse and maybe even other X-Men reboots, and if there was ever one complaint I ever had about the X-Men movies, it was Halle Berry. And it's just because, I don't think she gets her character. I don't think she's done the homework.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, she just doesn't fit the role.
No, she does not.
Can't hold an accent either.
No, she cannot.
Well, I mean, a lot of the other characters are spot on. I mean, Kelsey Grammer is Beast. Perfect. He's got the sense of timing for it.
I was surprised in X3 because I'm like, what? Why are you Kelsey Grammer? And then he came in and just wowed everybody.
I'm actually really excited because of Cyclops came back, and I actually really like the actor. I mean, I know everybody has their complaints.
I'm surprised he was allowed on the set.
I know. Same here, but that kind of goes to show that actor embraces Cyclops.
Yeah, is James Marsden, is that the actor that plays?
That's Cyclops, and he also went over with Bryan Singer to Superman Returns, or was it Superman Returns?
Yeah.
And then Famke Janssen, that was the other one that I was just like,
Well, I think a lot of it's also with quite a few of the actors, they just haven't had much success outside of it. I mean, the only other major film Famke Janssen was in was
yes, I'm saying your name wrong.
Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. My thoughts exactly.
I mean, that was kind of my issue with it. The other thing that I have a concern with is obviously X-Men Apocalypse, because now we're into that. And I think the Easter egg that got brought up was good. Don't get me wrong. I liked what they did with that whole concept, but maybe it's just because I haven't gotten every piece of information. How are we doing it? Are they bringing back Hugh and all them?
From what I've heard, I don't know if they're bringing back Hugh, but I know they are going to try to work in like McAvoy and Fassbender because it's going to have the whole.
That's what I was asking: is are we going to try and find an excuse to bring in Patrick and Ian again? Because now that future technically doesn't exist. So at this point, it actually might be a better idea to just go from the First Class universe. And actually, at that point, why not recast some of these characters? Bring in a new Cyclops, a younger one. I actually liked a lot of the First Class actors, and I got pissed that they got written off.
A slightly less douchier Cyclops.
Well, then again, Cyclops.
Alex Summers was not that bad in First Class.
Well, yeah, of course, in the case of like Cyclops' character, I mean, some people can't argue that sometimes Cyclops is at his best when he is being a bit of a douche. So.
That's Cyclops. That's Cyclops in the universe.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to bring back younger versions of those actors. Yes, Hugh, you got to bring back because he's established as Wolverine at this point.
Yeah.
But he's willing to work with you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, a younger Aurora Monroe would be interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying like Lupita Nyong'o should try for that role because she'd probably do a better job than Halle Berry. That's
right off the bat, like when they did the first X-Men movie, I thought Vivica A. Fox should have been brought in. I think she would have understood that role a little bit better.
Yeah, even the actress they had playing Storm in the Black Panther series was a lot better than.
Yes. So that's the issue that I have with it, but obviously I'm excited. This movie did not give me a whole lot of reason to hate it. In fact, I'll actually credit it a little bit because people here in this room know my hatred towards Jennifer Lawrence, and it's not because of her, it's because of her role in the Hunger Games. And I actually think she was one of the most endearing aspects of this movie. She really brought life to Mystique, where Rebecca Romaine Stamos was just told, sit there and look pretty.
I love you, J-Law. Please call me.
Yeah, of course, again, that's just more of the writing where
I'm totally into raccoons.
Yeah, that was just more of an issue, definitely, with just the writing, because you can tell
Yes.
back then they didn't know what they were doing with the character, aside from having her be a
Yeah,
cohort
they didn't
of
understand her.
Magneto.
Whereas Matthew Vaughn did.
One thing I'm at least moderately excited for is that at least they're going to try again with Gambit, because a lot of people think, oh, Channing Tatum is Gambit, we're worried, but everybody forgets, they've done worse with Gambit.
Yes, they have. Except now, we can't talk about that, Romney, because it's all been
retconned.
Movies have become comics, of course.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody's like, oh, Gambit's going to be a male strip.
That's exactly what needs to happen. Thank you, Aldo. That's exactly what you need. Now instead of saying comics word, you just need to say movies are weird. Movies are weird. You know?
Yeah. But yeah, it's just the case of, oh yeah, Gambit's going to become a male stripper. Well,
I don't know. I'm really excited for Channing Tatum. I like Channing Tatum. I'm not going to say he's an Oscar-winning actor like half the cast of X-Men is.
Yes.
But there's one thing that he does have that I actually always appreciate, which is the fact that he does have a genuine love of the character. He has said that he likes the character, he's read the character. So at the bare minimum, to me, that gives me hope that even if the character isn't well written or well acted, there's still going to be some sort of heart and passion behind it.
Yeah,
just like Wolverine.
But we could end up with another Justin Chatwin. That could also be the case, because it would just be a case of yet another ascended fanboy. And yeah, because that was the case with Justin Chatwin. It's like, oh, he loves Dragon Ball Z, he loves Goku, he's familiar with the character. Yeah.
So overall, we are actually running out of time. So I think all of us are basically saying we like this movie. Yep. Go and see it. We are all excited for Apocalypse, obviously, because we're wondering what they're going to do with it. I actually think they should stay in the First Class universe and actually bring in like younger versions
the rumor
of
is that
Storm.
the story is going to be set in the 80s, so
good, and I want that, because at that point then we can start getting other characters established, because one of the things that pissed me off a little bit was, in order to bring in the star power for this, they had to write off a lot of the actors from First Class. Mm-hmm. So like Emma Frost, she got written off screen as dead. I mean, anybody who was not there was basically written off as dead in it. So Banshee was not back. I'm trying to think of the other ones.
Angel, even though the character had the powers of Pixie, was written off.
Yes.
That was the one thing that bothered me about First Class.
Well, I also heard that they did want to, at some point, bring in Warren Worthington. So if they had her as Angel, then they'd have problems.
Yeah.
So at that given moment, I'm excited, but I had some beefs with this movie in particular. I want to see them do a little bit more with these characters, specifically James McAvoy. I think he's really turning out to be a good Professor X.
Mm-hmm. I just want more skin suit Jennifer Lawrence.
We see where all those motives lie. We don't want the blue suit, we don't want the blue paint, we want the blue suit. So in the meantime, we are actually running out of time. So in the meantime, I did it again. Dang it! If people want to hear more from us or want to discuss this stuff with us, how do people get a hold of us? First of all, Alex, how do people get a hold of you?
You can find me in a few places. I'm on youtube.com/shadowblazer3000. You can find me on Twitter under my full name, Alex J. Short. You can also find me on Facebook under my name, Alex Short.
And he is also a YouTuber or an anime reviewer on YouTube, so you can find a lot of his critique on things like Madoka Magica or Magica. I have heard so many pronunciations, Alex. Exactly. And then also you've got some big plans for June, and we can't talk about them because he will literally jump from this chair to murder me.
Well, it's not very far, at least. So.
Exactly. He's not exerting too much effort. Aldo, how can people find you?
You can find me on my website, boardoffline.net, also on YouTube at youtube.com/boardoffline. You can also find me on my Anime Overdub channel at youtube.com/animeoverdubes.
I actually have a series that you guys need to do because it got recommended to me because my wife likes watching dramas from ABC Family.
Yeah.
You need to go pick up Heaven's Lost Property.
Ooh, okay, I'm down on the list.
You gotta put me in it too.
No.
Another series to throw there, JoJo. Everybody likes JoJo.
Apart from that, you can find me on Twitter, Aldo531, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, Romney, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me on youtube.com/StudioPhantasma. That's Phantasma with an F. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews. Do not type the apostrophe. It just makes everything go weird. And you can also, Facebook. Oh yeah, MoviePilot. You can also find me on MoviePilot at moviepilot.com/ROMNE. And if you tune in Friday, you will get my review of Maleficent. And you can also find my review of A Million Ways to Die in the West.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you've watched Maleficent. I'm going to be joining you pretty soon.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to be watching it tomorrow. So.
Yeah, so again, I'm so sorry for you.
I'm sorry for me, too.
If people want to get a hold of me directly, you can do so at Twitter, which is twitter.com/Drak2326. Once again, that's DRAK2326. You can also find my YouTube content under the same name. That's also where Geek News Reviews and Opinions is hosted for the moment. If it gets popular enough, who knows? Maybe we'll get another YouTube page for it specifically. You can also give us a like at facebook.com/Geek News Reviews and Opinions. And I think that's pretty much it. So in the meantime, for next week, I'm just going to go ahead and hint at this right now. We're going to be going into pre-E3 coverage, so be ready for that. We're going to be getting into our expectations of what Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, all of them are going to be bringing into the mix, and E3 is going to be kind of our big thing for the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. We will cover entertainment stories as we go along, but really the big news is going to be from tech and gaming. So in the meantime, though, for Aldo, for Romney, for Alex, for myself, your host, Adam Mickelson, this has been yet another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
I can't wait for R3. Raccoons Expo.
Raccoons!